fingertip search of Nilsen's flat in Melrose Avenue reveals nothing to substantiate Nilsen's claim that his second victim was indeed Kenneth Ockenden. Against all the odds, it's in the flat in Cranley Gardens that the forensic team get the break they've been looking for.
When Nilsen moved from Melrose Avenue, he obviously took everything he had with him. And one of the items that he took was a London A to Z.
With incredible thoroughness, each page of the A to Z is checked for fingerprints. To reveal fingerprints on paper, forensic examiners use a chemical called ninhydrin. If any fingerprints are present, the ninhydrin will react with the chemicals found in human sweat, and the prints will appear as a dark reddish colour called Rumen's purple. On the corner of the London street map, they find a partial thumbprint. Incredibly, it matches those of the missing 23-year-old Kenneth Ockenden. After almost 5 years of searching, the police can finally close the case on the Canadian student. With only 2 out of the 15 victims identified, Jay pushes Nilsen to recall everything he can about the other murders.
Can you think of anything which is going to help us identify who this man is?
He was Irish.
How about victim number 9?
I think he had a Scottish accent.
Victim number 10?
I think I must have met him in the West End.
After 30 hours of intense questioning, 3 more names are confirmed. Martin Duffy, a 16-year-old homeless boy from Birkenhead. Billy Sutherland, a 26-year-old male prostitute from Leith, Scotland. And 23-year-old Malcolm Barlow, the last man Nilsen killed in Melrose Avenue. But how did Nilsen manage to kill so many without anybody noticing?
The people that he murdered, they had no real connections with anyone in London. They were from outside London. They'd come to London to seek their fortune, if you like. Some of them were living rough. They were people that the fact that they'd gone missing wouldn't have been noticeable.
Charting each murder, Jay comes to a terrifying conclusion. In one 18-month period, Nilsen killed a staggering 10 times, averaging 1 murder every 7 weeks. The forensic team begin an intensive search of the flat in Melrose Avenue. Methodically, they start to pull up every floorboard in the ground floor. Incredibly, even though it's been nearly 2 years since Nilsen lived there, they find vital microscopic evidence.
We were able to find pupae cases from various flies that come at various stages of decomposition of a body.
Peter Jay now needs to find out how Nilsen extracted the bodies from beneath the floorboards and disposed of them without alerting his neighbours.
I pulled up the floorboards and put each bundle in pieces of carpeting and tied them again. I decided to dispose of all these remains by burning.
When the fire burnt down, did you do anything else?
I pummeled it down to make sure no big bits were left behind.
But further fragments were recovered in today's sifting, which the police believe are human remains.
After 3 weeks of scouring Nilsen's garden in Melrose Avenue, the team extract over 2,000 bone fragments.
These are bone fragments that came from the garden. This is the sort of thing that we found, little scraps of bone which had been through intense heat.
Despite all their efforts, the bones proved too badly burnt and crushed to identify any further victims. The forensic search of Melrose Avenue is brought to a close. Then the police are handed an unexpected breakthrough. In the course of a separate investigation, the police identify a man who survived a Nilsen attack. 21-year-old Carl Stotter. Interviewed in 1983, Stotter recalls the night Nilsen tried to kill him.
I fell asleep and I woke up and he was strangling me.
Over 25 years later, Carl is still traumatized by the memory of that night.
And I remember this guy lying over my back and he strangled me. And the pressure in my head was unbelievable. Being strangled is not nice.
But Nilsen isn't finished with Carl.
He picked me up out of the bed and he put me in a bath. And he tried to drown me.
Incredibly, Carl survives the ordeal. For 3 days, he lies unconscious in Nilsen's flat before coming round. Yet rather than finishing Carl off, for some inexplicable reason, Nilsen does everything he can to revive him. It's an uncharacteristic act that still mystifies Carl.
He knew I was alive because he brought me back to life. This is what most people don't realise, is that is he my killer or is he my saviour? And this is what I battle with. Did he kill me or did he save me?
Carl's testimony provides police with an insight into the troubled mind of Dennis Nilsen. It also gives the police a key witness for the upcoming trial.
Come on. Are you all right? We are labeling.
For 5 years, Dennis Nilsen waged a campaign of murder that went completely undetected by the police. Following his arrest, Nilsen readily confesses to the strangulation, dismemberment and disposal of 15 men. After 6 months, the police investigation has turned up the names of just 5 of his 15 victims. With the inquiry into the murders at Melrose Avenue exhausted, the efforts now focus on the anonymous bodies found in Cranley Gardens. Nilsen is vague, but he thinks one of the men he killed was called John, and that he'd served in the Guards.
He said he was from High Wycombe. We sat and drank.
In order to try and get to the bottom of that one, we sent a team off to look through all the Guards' records to try and find a John who came from High Wycombe. And the ones that were found were traced, still alive. And it took 3 or 4 months to realise that he never was a Guardsman.
The search now turns to the West End of London, where Nilsen picked up many of his victims. Trawling through police records, a list of 40 men named John from High Wycombe is drawn up. It's now up to the forensic team to whittle the list down to 1. By analysing strips of muscle attached to the dismembered bones, the forensic team deduce the victim's blood group. Comparing the information with the police records, they're able to confirm the name of Nilsen's 13th victim as John Howlett. The news came as a terrible blow to Carl Stotter.
My mum used to work with his dad, and he was dead in the wardrobe when Nilsen was trying to kill me. John was just chopped up. He did not deserve to die that way, nor did anyone. How can you imagine that somebody would chop me up into little pieces?
The police can now put 6 names to Nilsen's 15 victims. With a full confession and strong forensic evidence, they now have everything they need to go to court. But there is still one last question Jay wants answered.
Dennis, did you intend to kill all these people?
What I did seemed right at the time.
Are you saying you had a need to kill?
In some cases, at that precise moment of the act, I felt my sole reason for existence was to carry out that act. What I did had to be done.
Nilsen's lack of regret still troubles Peter Jay.
He never ever showed any remorse. You would never see him sit there in an interview thinking or saying, you know, I feel really bad about that, or there was nothing. It was just, he was stone cold.
The trial of Dennis Nilsen is set to start on the 24th of October, 1983. Just a few days before the case is heard, the police finally put a name to the third and last victim from Cranley Gardens, a 28-year-old Graham Allen. But the judge rules the evidence has come too late to use in the case against Nilsen. As the names of Kenneth Ockenden, Malcolm Barlow, Martin Duffy, John Howlett, Billy Sutherland, and Stephen Sinclair are read out, Nilsen is asked how he pleads to the charge of murder. To this day, Peter Jay can't believe Nilsen's reply.
Whether it was on legal advice or his own choosing, he decided to plead not guilty to murder on the grounds of diminished responsibility. He admits to all the killings, but he wouldn't admit that he killed them with malice aforethought.
Nilsen is hoping to get away with the lesser charge of manslaughter. The trial is to last just over 2 weeks. For Carl Stotter, the memory of facing his attacker in court is a painful experience.
It was a nightmare. It was something I didn't know. I remember thinking, I don't even know this guy. Why would a total stranger want to try and kill you? It just didn't compute. And so I never understood it.
On Friday the 4th of November, the jury give their verdict. Dennis Nilsen is found guilty of the murder of all 6 men. The judge hands Nilsen a life sentence, recommending he serve no less than 25 years. Nilsen's lack of reaction to his sentence baffles those closest to him.
He'd been found guilty and sentenced, I think, to 25 years, but he didn't bat an eyelid. Very strange.
Nilsen was to make one last chilling confession to Peter Jay.
Nilsen said, if you hadn't caught me now, it wouldn't have been 15 murders. It would have probably been 150 if I'd been caught later on. He said there was no stopping me. I couldn't help myself. He used to say that when he woke up in the morning, he'd look and find another body there and think, oh no, I've done it again.
3 decades after Nilsen first killed, there is to be one last twist to the case. At the time of the investigation, the police couldn't confirm the identity of Nilsen's first victim. But recently, thanks to a team dedicated to solving cold cases,